Okay, now I'll introduce myself. My name is Varsha Chaudhary, and I'll be hosting the session today. And today I welcome you all to another session of Spare India Academy Initiative. Spare India Academy initiative was launched in 10th of April 2020. It is a collaborative initiative of WHO, UNICEF, WFP, HCL Foundation, and other organizations. It is a capacity building initiative with the mission to enable humanitarian aid and frontline workers across India to fulfill various roles in emergency preparedness and response. Over the past 2 years, we have conducted 270 academy sessions through the COVID-19 Academy, which saw around 1.5 lakh participants and 684 unique resource persons who delivered these sessions. So today we are going to talk about today's session is about disability inclusive disaster risk reduction, and the topic here is building a community of practice. So, like we all know, disaster risk reduction is a concept and practice of reducing disaster risk through systematic efforts to analyze and manage causal factors of disaster, lessening the vulnerability of people and property. Over the past few years, disability inclusive disaster risk reduction has grown in importance in health. Inclusive DRR is the need of the hour, and hence Spare India would like to comprehend the subject today through a panel discussion. And through this webinar, experts will discuss various different aspects of the participatory approach for community-based collaborative effort to minimize the impact of natural hazards and by increasing the coping capacities of the persons with disability and thereby decreasing their vulnerabilities. So today we have a very eminent set of panelists today. So I would like to introduce all the panelists one by one. So we have Mr. Ravi Ranganathan. He is the head of Inclusive Health and Humanitarian Response at CBM India. Ravi sir holds 18 plus years of experience in development sector in managing program and operation across various international NGOs, government and UNDP on thematic areas of old age, disability, inclusive health with a focus on community eye health, rural livelihood, youth employment, livelihood, volunteer for development, disaster risk reduction, and humanitarian assistance. Over years, Mr. Ranganathan sir has worked on disaster risk reduction, humanitarian assistance programs, DM plan, preparation, training, and capacity building, and mainstreaming DRR program. We now welcome you, sir. Thank you for joining. Uh, Next, we have Dr. Sana Damania. Dr. Sana Damania is a graduate in prosthetics and orthotics. She's a postgraduate diploma holder in CSR and is working for persons with disabilities through the CSR program Suction Empowerment for the Divyangs of the Spark Minda Foundation. We welcome you, ma'am. Next, we have Dr. P.T. Baburaj. He is the Director of Inter-University Center for Disability Studies, Kerala. He holds a specialization in auditory handicap, which is speech and hearing impairment. He has been awarded the Bharatiya Dalit Sahitya Academy Award and also have over 15 publications under his name. He is also the editorial board member of IUCBR and SSH Puthupalli MG University. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we have Dr. Shekhar Sankaratri. He is the founder and head of Sankaratri Foundation, Andhra Pradesh. Uh, um, he has attended Municipal High School at Rajamundry, Andhra University, Walter Memorial University of Newfoundland, Canada, and University of Alberta, Canada. He established Sankaratri Foundation in India in the memory of his family in 1989, and the foundation's goal is to improve the quality of life of needy people in the rural and remote areas of Andhra Pradesh. Along with the Sankaratri Foundation, he has also established Manjari Sankaratri Memorial Foundation in the year 1989, Sarda Vidyalayam in 1992, and Sri Kiran Institute of Ophthalmology in 1993. We welcome you, sir. Next, we have the moderator for today, Mr. Ayan Chandelia. He's a development professional with 17 plus years of rich experience in grassroots, national, international organization. As he has worked across a wide range of sectors in different capacities, including disability, public health, development programs, and emergencies with various organizations. He is also a trained member of health emergencies in large population, regional disaster response team, and community-based health and first aid. I would request you, Mr. Ayan, to take over the session from now. While I also welcome all the participants who have joined the today's sessions. Due to some technical error, Mr. Ayan has, I guess, left the meeting. We'll just wait for him to join.
Hi everyone. I just checked with Ayan. So there's a power cut in his area, and he's just trying to resolve it, and he'll be joining in another 1 or 2 minutes. Sorry for the delay. Varsha, can you please make Ayan co-host? He's here.
Yes, Mr. Ayan is the co-host, and I would request him to take on the session from now.
1 second, he has not connected to the audio yet.
Shall I start this session? Due to some technical issues, I guess the moderator, Mr. Ayan, today is not able to join for now. As soon as he joins, he'll take over. In meanwhile, we start off the session, and I would request Mr. Dr. P.T. Baburaj to share his viewpoints and discuss about the multi-level institutional policy framework on disability inclusive disaster reduction. Sir, if you can share some light on this topic. He's not unmuting. Dr. P.T. Baburaj, sir, can you please unmute yourself?
Varsha, Ayan has joined with another device. Can you make him the co-host?
Yeah. Sorry, everyone. There's a problem here with the internet. But to connect again, to welcome again. If
Then we have introduced everyone. Dr. Shambhu will be joining in a short while.
sure.
We can go ahead with our first speaker, Dr. P.T. Baburaj, and Varsha already posted the question to him, and we are requesting him to just turn on his mic.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Sergio and Varsha.
You can just give a brief about the day, and you can take it forward from here.
Sure.
Ayan, would you like to take the lead?
I guess we'll start off with other panelists.
Varsha, please make Ayan co-host.
Uh,
Yeah. Thank you. We can start with the Ravi from CBN. Very good evening, Ravi.
All right, so
Yeah.
good evening, everyone. So a lot of challenges. We are behind 26 minutes, 27 minutes already gone. I'm not sure about the timing.
Sure.
Are we allowed to go with the same timing, or what is the plan for in terms of the because I see more than 5 panelists are there. Even if you go for average 10 minutes, so you need another, it's beyond your schedule. How do we go about it, Ayan?
We'll keep it for 7 minutes, and in case 7 minutes for each participant, we just need to cut short. And in case panel members allow, we can extend a bit, say 5-10 minutes more at the end of the discussion. But let's start with few questions from towards you, and how you feel this theory of participation and inclusion is feasible in this disaster risk reduction. If you elaborate a bit from your side, from CBM perspective, it would be good.
I'm getting some background noise on, I don't know where it is. Yeah, thank you.
Ayan, you'll have to mute yourself.
Right, thank you. Yes, definitely this is a very interesting webinar for me, because a long time, CBM in India, over 50 years, we are really fostering the mainstream in disability in all the work, whether in education sector or health or humanitarian DIDR sector. So from CBM, we are really glad and thank the SPEAR team for organizing this wonderful webinar. Also, thanks for SPEAR for giving me this opportunity to share the perspective of inclusion in disaster risk reduction. I'm also very glad we have our partner hospital, Dr. Shekhar is also one of the panelists. Hello, sir. And then we have our partner, I think Sanjay Pandey is there from Uganda. So I could not see other people, my colleagues from CBM also there. So this is really a good moment, and I really welcome everyone for this session. So what extent the theory of participation is feasible in progressing towards DIDRR? So DIDRR is not something a new subject. I think the most of these people part of this this webinar are familiar with the DIDRR. That is my assumption. But if you look at the inclusive DRR, maybe it is something not very well concept, and people are not really aware. Maybe in DIDRR, people see a person with disability as a vulnerable group, and they see it's a cross-cutting issue. But if you look at any disaster, the person with disabilities are the most vulnerable. The population-wise globally, about estimate of 15% of the world population live with some form of disability, and most vulnerable and neglected in any type of disasters. If you see any disasters, the mortality rate, the person with disability having high mortality rate. This is just a background, so you know better. And also the barriers and challenges you see, people with disabilities, as I said, they are more vulnerable. They face widespread barriers accessing services, relief and rehabilitation, or any other participation in the mitigation and preparedness. So they face a lot of barriers. The reason is inadequate policies and standards, lack of accessibility, and negative attitude about the person with a disability, inadequate informations and communications, inadequate funding, and lack of participation in decision making, quite a lot of other barriers. So if you look at the legal perspective, human rights perspective, this disability inclusion is not something like a charity approach. According to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, Article 11, which is very clearly indicates that person with disability, it is not something a charity approach. It is the responsibility of the states party to take up all necessary measures to ensure the protection, safety, and participation of persons with disability in emergency and the occurrence of natural disasters. Not only with UNCRPD Article 11, you also see our DM Act 2005, which has a lot of areas where you participation, training, and capacity building, involvement of NGOs and CBOs, where I really call upon the person with the disability as an organization, OPD. So it is something for us to really think that it is it is the rights of the person with disability participate in this disaster risk reduction program. So if we go for participation in a larger area, most of you are really familiar with all these project management cycles. Like we have to really promote the meaningful involvement of person with disability in the right from the needs assessment, designing the program, while implementing the program. They can be monitoring and coordinating, and they can also be part of evaluation when it comes to humanitarian preparedness and response program. So I have a lot of experience, like the recent Cyclone Amphan we had responded in West Bengal. We have done actually quite a lot of involvement of person with disability right from the needs assessment. When we do the rapid needs assessment, the person with disability is part of it. And we developed the program design with people, the OPDs. And while implementing, the person with disability were part of implementation activities, and coordinating with various stakeholders, PRA and the government, other local bodies. The role of a person with disability was really, they contribute very high. And they were also monitoring the real-time monitoring were used. And we also have a beneficiary satisfaction survey we have done, and they have done the kind of study, and they have really seen the effectiveness and the efficacy of the program. I can take a lot of responses which we have included person with disability, including the Kerala response. I could see one of our partner cases. They are also in the program. We have done the real-time evaluation, and the program was really going on. And within the month period, we did the evaluation of the program, whether it's really appropriate to the context, to the people's needs, everything. So also it's very important, the person with disability, they are just not just only your beneficiary. They are also the leaders. They have a lot of skills and they have experience. Their capacity is very high. So it's very important to ensure their active participation in decision making and planning process, including the appropriate coordination mechanism. So we need to really foster inclusive community-based production mechanism for better and tailored and context-specific response, and strengthen the resilience of the person with disability, their community, and their caregivers and family. There is a need for inclusive policies. A lot of policies are already there in place. Even in the country context, we have really DIDR policies are there. So we need to engage with all relevant states and other stakeholders and partners to ensure the protections of person with disability are required as per the standards and protocols which are used at the international level, even to the national level. We need to develop and endorse and implement policies and guidelines based on the existing frameworks and standards, supporting the humanitarian actors to improve inclusions of persons with disability in emergency preparedness and response. We need to really adapt policies and process to improve qualitative and quantitative data collections on persons with disability. We also ensure the data collected on persons with disability are disintegrated. Like, for example, we have the practice, even in the health projects, we are having this Washington set of survey we follow. So it gives you really better understanding and understand the cross disability, understand multiple disability and their needs. So kind of knowledge and kind of applying this disaggregated data is very important. We need to ensure that emergency and preparedness planning are designed to consider the diverse needs of persons with disability. So if it is COVID, if it is flood and cyclone, and when it comes to persons with disability, their needs are very diverse, and it is also invisible also. For example, you see when the COVID, the lockdowns and COVID appropriate behavior, communication, everything came into practice. Imagine you put yourself like person with visual impairment. Like the person with visual impairment have to really, if they go to ATM or if they go to any other places accessing the community vital installations, they really need to touch whether the rail, whether another, if they want to refer the braille in somewhere, information. So it's very difficult for them. and the technology or the kind of information which are not really accessible for the person with disability. Similarly, like for example, in emergency, a person become disabled due to injuries, and also person with disability, they lose their assistive devices, their specific needs or their health needs, and there are certain medications, certain requirements which is not available, easily available due to disruption of the structures and systems are collapsed. So we need to really understand the wider needs of the person with disability, and the service and humanitarian services are equally available and accessible to all the person with disability. It's very important. So one important thing is elimination of physical communication attitudinal barriers, which is including through systemic provisions of information for all planning, preparedness, response, and ensure accessibility of services, including through universal design in programming, policies, and all post-emergency reconstruction. It's very important. Like when you build the structure, you have a cyclone shelter, you have housing, you have other places. We really need to ensure whether it is really accessible. Suppose you provide a relief, the relief camps is really accessible. Whether the terrain is suitable for the person with disability. So it's very important for us to really think. When it comes to very narrow down participation of a person with a disability in DIDRR, I really want to take certain areas of DIDRR. You see, the community-based disaster management plan. All of you familiar with the disaster management plan. According to DM Act 2005, it very clearly indicates that every year the disaster management plan to be updated at the national level, at the state and the districts, even the village and the ward level DM plans to be updated. So it gives this opportunity for the government and other civil society to really ensure person with disability, their information, their data, and their participation is really included as part of the DM plan. But with the real situation, if you go many village plans are there. But are these data, all the plans are having accurate, you take a social map. In the map, whether it will help you to identify where is the person with a disability living in the community. What is the household of person with disability? Something it can be marked. It's in DM plan. There are a lot of committees and task forces which you know, like starting from your disaster management committee, your task forces for early warning. You have a task forces for search and rescue. You have a shelter management. You have first aid. You have data management, psychosocial care and support. Quite a lot of task forces are there. So try to include as much as the person with the disability part of this task forces, and they are the knowledgeable and they are the most vulnerable and who face a lot of barriers and challenges during the emergencies and crises, and their experience definitely will bring better mitigative and management strategy and action. So they can be definitely the best contributor, and the person with disability has to be part of the disaster management committee and the task forces at the village level. You take NGO, district level NGOs groups are there. They directly work with the district as a disaster management authority and the line departments and the district collector and magistrate. So we have to really ensure that the OPDs, organizations of persons with disability, are really part of this in the district level NGO groups. You know, the lot of interagency coordination groups and committees, many are available across India. So it's very important for IAGs to really include the person with the disability and their organizations part of this to address them, to bring the culture of inclusion and address the mainstream, the inclusive disaster risk reduction across NGOs and government to really change their appropriate strategy and plan to include the person with disability. A lot of advisory groups are there. There are committees which will support wherever possible. We ensure that person with disability are part of it. So when there is also another question which is there part of my sharing, how the collaborative approach can really be effective in sharing the best practices and pooled knowledge for effective DIDRR implementation. You see, in my previous days, I worked with UNDP. We were doing a lot of community-based disaster program. See, every private-public partnership is very important for effective DIDRR program. You see, the technology intervention play a lot of role. I remember about 15, 20 years back, we were doing a PRA methods for doing the village mapping and doing the vulnerability mapping, also resource mapping, safe route evacuation. Everything was done with the people's participation. Definitely, it was a success model, but it's also important now where the technology is there. I think every fields and coordinates are digitized now. The maps are digitized, even every village, even the remote areas were digitized. So using the GIS, remote sensing, which is very well. Even the country, India is into the world, say, in second place for remote sensing and everything. So kind of various NGOs, various corporates, various agencies, they are really good in GIS and remote sensing, and their expertise can be taken.
Ravi, if I may request you to wind up in 1 minute, please, then I.
Sure. There are people who are good in distress alert systems. They can give you better projections, modeling for effective disaster risk reductions. The people who are from the medical and rehabilitation and emergency medicine fraternity can do a lot of first aids and emergency casualty management, triage, many other things which they can do and save the life. There is a lot of research and development, construction and resistance technology. See, technology region, quite a lot of things people can play a role on earthquake resistant constructions or any other disaster resistant construction. They can train the mason other workforces for making the community become resilient also. We take agriculture and livestock, people can support the tolerable varieties of crops which are not damaged due to floods and extreme weather conditions. So many departments, many NGOs, many other technical agencies, together they have a lot of knowledges, and if they effectively use their knowledge, share with the other people and pooling the resource together, definitely bring the inclusions. Like for example, I was talking about assistive technology, a lot of supports required for person with disability. All these things possible when we have this public-private partnership as a model in DIDRR. So I just wanted to really tell the entire group that we can definitely go ahead, and there are a lot of principle guidelines which are already there, which core humanitarian standards, inclusion standards for old people and disability. Quite a lot. Even CBM also had a humanitarian hands-on tool, which is available in your Play Store. You can go hands-on humanitarian tool. It tells you step by steps in ensure the DIDRR in your program. So with that, I really want to conclude, and if any questions, I'll be happy to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Ravi, for setting the floor. And we have Dr. Shambhu also joining the panel, who's the Additional Commissioner, State Commission for Disability, Bihar. So welcome, sir. Dr. Shambhu, are you able to? Varsha, if you can unmute Dr. Shambhu.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yes, very good afternoon, Dr. Shambhu. Welcome to this discussion.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking Dr. Shambhu from Bihar.
Yes, Dr. Shambhu, if you can highlight some state-specific interventions which aided or supported in promoting disability inclusive disaster risk reduction, that would be really nice. Ravi has already set the floor. Hello.
Yeah, I am Shambhu from Bihar, Additional Commissioner, State Disability, Bihar State. Really, today, this is a very important topic on which we have got together, and I am very fortunate that I am participating in this webinar. Our state, Bihar, is also more sensitive to PWDs and our state, and we are regularly trying to for welfare to PWDs. Though PWD disabled person also already in a risk zone, and always PWDs are in risk because they are not physically fit for like a normal person. So there is unnecessary for a special attention to disabled persons. We have already coordinated total all 38 districts in our state, district magistrate. We have already written them letters for this and coordinated, especially we have coordinated coordinated with disaster management department. We know in flood and like this disaster period, PWDs are in very risky zone. We know in COVID-19 period, they are also very in risk zone. For PWD's betterment and PWD's welfare, we have coordinated two different areas with health department, with disaster management department, and with all district magistrates of our state. Our state is always ready to help them. I would like to share that for community based, we have already made even village and panchayat level group, panchayat level organization with PWDs active workers for this work. And we are very fortunate. We are always getting help from those sides. There are some organizations, NGOs are also very active to do work in this field, and we are always getting help from those sides, from that type of organizations. And time to time, we organize meeting, review meeting with different departments in our office, and we try to solve this type of problems, and we always make a plan for disability inclusive disaster risk, building a community of practice. So our state and we are always sensitive for this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Shambhuji, for stating about some of the intervention. Uh, if you can also highlight, how the inclusion of person in disability in different phases of disaster management, say in response, in preparedness, how it is done. अगर आप कुछ example दे सकें, state specific, so it would be really helpful.
For example, in COVID-19 period, ये हम सभी जानते हैं कि वो बहुत बड़ा डिजास्टर पूरे वर्ल्ड के लिए रहा। तो उस पीरियड में डिफरेंट डिस्ट्रिक्ट में जो डिसेबल पर्सन फंसे रहे, दूसरे डिस्ट्रिक्ट के रहे, या वैसे भी डिसेबल पर्सन का कॉल आता था इस ऑफिस को इंडिविजुअली भी कि उनके पास खाने को नहीं है, भूखे मर रहे हैं। नेचुरली उस समय सभी लोग काफी रिस्क में थे, संकट में थे, डिजास्टर में थे। तो वैसे लोगों को हेल्प पहुंचाने के लिए या उनको वहां से निकालने के लिए, जहां उनका अपना घर है वहां तक पहुंचाने के लिए डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को फोन करके उनके साथ कोऑर्डिनेशन बना करके उनको वहां तक भेजा गया और रिस्पेक्टिव डिपार्टमेंट से बात करके, बीडीओ से बात करके, वहां जिनको ड्यूटीज दी गई थी उनसे बात करके उनका खाना पीना पहुंचाने की कोशिश की गई। और रियली उसमें हम लोग को काफी सफलता भी मिली और थैंक्स टू गॉड कि ऐसा करने में ऐसे बहुत सारे एग्जाम्पल्स हैं जिसमें हम लोग काफी सक्सेसफुल भी हुए।
Thank you again. Dr. Shambhu, like Bihar में flood एक regular phenomena. Every year there is a flood situation in Bihar. So this time any special efforts for person with disability? कुछ इस तरह का plan या review meeting में discussion है?
हाँ, यस, ये फ्लड वाले टाइम में तो इस तरह का स्पेशली ऐसा हम लोग प्रयास करते हैं। हम लोग ऑलवेज ट्राई करते हैं। सबसे पहले उस तरह कोई भी नॉट ओनली इन फ्लड पीरियड, किसी भी तरह का डिजास्टर अगर रहे, खास करके चूंकि बिहार फ्लडेड एरिया है, तो जैसे ही फ्लड की स्थिति बनती है हम लोग सभी डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट को निश्चित रूप से एक लेटर देते हैं कि उस पीरियड में पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटीज को किसी प्रकार की कोई डिफिकल्टीज न हो और उनके लिए स्पेशल एफर्ट लगा करके उनके प्रोटेक्शन के लिए व्यवस्था की जाए, उसके लिए मैनेजमेंट किया जाए। ये और इतना ही नहीं बल्कि हम लोग कुछ एक्टिव एनजीओज को बुला करके उनके साथ भी हम लोगों ने मीटिंग की है और इस तरह की का मैनेजमेंट करते हैं, उनका भी ओपिनियन लेते हैं और उनको भी इसके लिए अवेयर करते हैं कि जिस इलाके में वो लोग काम कर रहे हैं, खास करके डिजास्टर के सिचुएशन में, वो PWDs के स्पेशल एफर्ट लगाएं और उसके लिए काम करें। और इसके लिए पंचायत लेवल पे, विलेज लेवल पे, ये सब डिवीजन लेवल पे, डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पे ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस बने हुए हैं। PWDs के जो एक्टिव लोग हैं उन लोगों को मिला करके ग्रुप बनाया गया है ताकि रिमोट इलाके में भी अगर किसी प्रकार का कोई प्रॉब्लम होता है PWDs को, तो वहां से बात कर सके और खुद भी उसको सॉल्व कर सके। और उसमें गवर्नमेंट ऑफिस से, एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन से, डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन से, ब्लॉक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन से भी उनको कोऑपरेशन मिल सके और उनको कहीं डिफिकल्टीज होती है तो वो लोग डायरेक्ट हमसे कांटेक्ट करते हैं और यहाँ से भी हम लोग ये कोशिश करते हैं कि उनके लिए एफर्ट लगा करके हम वर्क कर सकें।
Thank you, Dr. Shambhu, for stating all these points from the state side. It's nice to hear from Bihar. And now, after the government will move towards the corporate sector. So Ms. Sana Damania, she is the senior executive CSR in Spark Minda Foundation. So welcome, Sana.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Sana, I mean, how the private or the CSR can augment this disaster response strategy, especially for person with disability? If you can share some highlight.
I will sort of try and stick to the time limit and keep it very short and very to the point. So nowadays, as everybody knows, that a lot of people, a lot of corporates, a lot of private companies have started employing, or they already have people with disabilities working for them. So as a base rule, what happens is, this is specifically to Spark Manda, initially what I am sharing the experience. So we have an induction program wherein we also induct the PWDs on an evacuation strategy. Ours being a manufacturing organization, the chances of disasters happening or chances of mishappenings happening in the particular area are higher. So we have an evacuation plan. We give them trainings on evacuation practices if there is an emergency. How is it? What are the protocols to be followed? How do they get out? What is the emergency path outline? So all of these trainings are given to them during their induction process altogether. Now we have people not only with orthopedic impairment, we have people with visual impairment, we have people with speech and hearing impairment working for us as well. So, as Mr. Ravi mentioned, that there are diverse needs because we have diverse categories of people with disabilities. So, to cater to all of them, we need to have visual sirens. We cannot just have an alarm system going on. Even to cater to people with visual impairment, we have a buddy allotted. So there's a buddy for every visually impaired person that is working with us. So likewise, an evacuation plan is set, and there are trained employees with us who, at the time of emergency, are they are expected to manage the situation well, to make sure that people with disabilities get out first, because they are always in a risk zone, as supplemented by the earlier speakers as well. So this is something that I think everybody can do, because evacuation strategies, safety is something that everybody works on, be it an IT company, be it a manufacturing sector. Anybody working in the corporate has a safety measure, has an evacuation plan. So only thing is we have to devise it in such a way that it becomes accessible for the PWDs that are working with us. So I think starting small and then enlarging it is how corporates can go about it. Start with the employees that you have, go to the families of these employees, and then collaborations, partnerships with other NGOs working specifically and working categorically for people with disabilities. That is how you increase your reach. That is how you spread awareness. And that is how I think CSR can assist in the reduction of risks during disasters for PWDs.
Thank you, Sana, sharing that, starting with the small steps and then expanding it further. But if you can also highlight some of the concerns or gaps which CSR organization they are facing towards practicing this disability inclusive practices.
So, sensitization and awareness, lack of awareness and sensitizing the people, these are the two major things that are challenges or hindrances, if I can. So creating an awareness, spreading an awareness, because people in the rural areas, there are people in the rural areas who are still not aware of the basic needs of accessibility that are actually available to them.
So if they are not even aware of the basic things available already, then this is something which is a far reach for them. So creating awareness is something that where we can start, and of course sensitization, because it doesn't come naturally to all of us to cater to people with disabilities, to cater to people with special needs, to extend that helping hand. So it is not just people with disabilities, but it is also us who need to be educated, who need to be sensitized, and who need to be educated as to how things should be managed if there is a disaster happening, or if there is a natural calamity, and you know that you have a person in a nearby neighborhood that you can go and you can help out, that needs your help. So even they should be aware, they should be knowledgeable as to what is to be done, who is to be contacted, or if there is something that they can do by themselves. So all of these things need to be spread out, they need to be given out, and there should be proper handling of cases in this manner.
Very valid, sensitization and awareness. So thank you so much, Sana, for sharing. These points are really helpful when we know that there are people in CSR or corporate who are familiar with this. And in order to sensitize and create awareness more at the ground, I'll move forward to Dr. Chandra, who is the founder and head of Sankaratri Foundation in Andhra Pradesh. Dr. Chandra.
Thank you.
Dr. Chandrasekhar, you are there quite long in this sector and working at the ground level, and if you can focus some of your learnings in this area, so it will be very helpful to other participants.
Okay, thank you for giving this opportunity to share some of our journey in the process. And Sankaratri Foundation has 3 missions: providing accessible, affordable, and equitable quality programs, all programs. The moment you say accessible, equitable means that includes all the people, irrespective of their race, creed, and handicap, or whatever it is. So our motto is to serve all the people who needs our services. With that motto, we have been moving forward since 1989, and our outreach activities are exclusively for making our services accessible to people who are mostly marginalized people living in the rural and tribal areas, and most of them are poor, and especially women, aged women, and men. So all these people are crippled by the cataract blindness or some other eye problems. Hence, they lost their dignity of life. They had to depending on other people. So we try to help such people and restore the vision, at the same time restore the dignity, so can live happily in their last few years of their life. SF, all the services are accessible and for differently able people. Thanks to CBM, they helped us to make it really good now. We have provided the ramps everywhere at the school and the hospital, and railings, side railings, and toilets, special toilets for the handicapped people again. Wheelchair can go into the toilets and they can use it comfortably. So with all these things now, all the programs in SF are really user-friendly for the handicapped people and who need some service. In addition to that, we sensitize all our people, staff members, to be and look out for any disabled people walk into the hospital. This starting from the drivers, security guard, reception people, all the people in the foundation are sensitized and they're aware of these things, and we take special care of those people. Recently, we also have added in the software to identify various disability people coming into our services so that that will be useful data for anybody to use later on. And in addition to that, we have lifts to go to all the 3 floors, both at the school and the hospital. So anybody who are not able to walk properly, they will be able to use the lift services. Services from village to hospital are also provided for most of the people so that they will be traveling with ease to utilize our services at the base hospital. And at the same time, we'll drop them back in the same village again where they are from. So wherever possible, we are trying to see how to make them comfortable to come and utilize our services. Luckily, in our school, we didn't have any handicapped children, except a few years ago, there was a one-eyed blind girl who studied in our school, and she graduated and left. We have few people in the hospital who are employees with a little disabilities. There was a guy with sort of semi-blind, and he was helping in the reception area. Like that, we try to encourage people to use whatever services we have. We also want to provide the employment opportunities if they knock on our door. So this is the hospital and school program. Coming to Spandana, our disaster relief program, that we found out as we are living on the coastline of Bay of Bengal. We are prone to hurricanes and cyclones and all that. At the time, we see people living in the low-lying areas are being moved out of their houses. They're displaced persons living in temporary shelters. So we always try to find out what other people, including government, are doing to help them. If government is not able to help all the people, we try to look at those people and try to help them with immediate drinking water, food, and some, etc., cooking food, etc. Most of the places, they don't have a cooking facility. So we give them cooked food and some dry food material so that they can live on that one and somehow get back to their residence in habitations after receding of the floods. When they come to the flooded areas, sometimes they lose all the possessions in the house. So we provide them some clothing, some utensils to get back with their routine life and all that. So we do it in a very small way, but only in the local areas. Interestingly, there was a killer cyclone in Odisha in 1998. There was a big cyclone, but we could not help there because we are far away from Odisha. So what we did was we have collected dry food supplies and some clothes, immediate clothing for men and women and children, and send it to the truckload to the Ramakrishna mission, who can disseminate the people, right people who they fit and all that. Afterwards, we have collected used clothes from all the from local people, from the schools and colleges.
Dr. Chandra, Shekhar, we are not able to hear you.
What happened?
Yeah, please continue.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, please continue.
Yeah, we are going to some cyclone here. Maybe some disturbances coming once in a while.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, talking about cyclones, we are going to the cyclone right now. So wherever possible, if it's a distant place, we try to do through somebody else to help them and all that. Usually we try to identify who are the most neglected people in all these disasters. Often, a lot of people help the people in the very open areas, grounded areas and all that. but people living in the remote areas are usually left out. We try to identify them. Our volunteers go to that and try to do whatever little bit we can do so that every person who needs help can be helped by us. So this is our motto. Similarly, coming back to the same thing when COVID-19 came, we were under pressure from many ways, but still we know a lot of people are being through suffering, and we have tried to help them with a little way. But when CBM India came through, we could help with all the people. And after identifying who are the most deserving people to the local volunteers, we helped only those people by giving them the dry rations and then some medical support, health kits, some masks, sanitizations, etc., and all those things. So this is what we have been doing, our work, and our aim is to assist most vulnerable and neglected people during that time. So we are happy to work with the CBM India to help in this case, COVID. Through their assistance, we will help to 1,200 families with all the rations and all that. So this is about our program, what we do with most of the people, how to make it accessible to all the people so that they can utilize those services. But interestingly, what our observations are, most of the people here are very apathetic towards these problems. They do not understand people of disabled people, because this is one reason why there are no accessibility facilities in any government hospitals or even hospitals or even the commercial places. When I see that, I feel very bad about it. Why these people are so insensitive to the needs of these handicapped people who are disabled, they cannot be on their own. If there are these facilities, disabled people can go happily on their own, and thus restores their dignity and they feel more confident. Unfortunately, this is what we are missing in our society. And for that, I think we have to sensitize the public and also the government. And advocacy of the government is also very important to bring out some legislations to make these things are mandatory for most of the places. And second thing is, they need empathy, but not sympathy. That's what we believe in that. With empathy, we understand their problems, but not with the sympathy. They don't want our sympathy because they are also human beings. They want to live dignified, and we have to provide those things to them. This is our feeling about this thing. And when only we can do that, we come to the real inclusion. Yeah. And we are talking about at the time of disasters, they are even more prone for discriminations and negligence and all that.
True, very well said. And we also faced in different parts of the country similar issues, and especially the most neglected or vulnerable people have been not able to consider in different initiatives. So thank you, Dr. Shekhar. We just move from a grassroots organization to further to an institution, to Dr. P.T. Baburaj, who's the director of Inter-University Center for Disability Studies in Kerala. Welcome, Dr. Baburaj. Are you there?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Mitchell Baburaj from Mahatma Gandhi University. I would like to share the experiences from my project conducted during the great flood affected in Kerala. And during that period, myself and my fellow beings, a team of experts who are especially trained in inclusive disaster risk reduction program, and we were conducted a statewide awareness program regarding inclusive disaster risk reduction. We named the program strengthening emergency response capabilities of the differently abled in Kerala. And there are 14 districts in Kerala from Trivandrum to Kasaragod. And when we started the training program, immediately the great flood broken out. So it creates a lot of problem. Even though in the midst of the program, we moved to the north side of Kerala where the affected areas are less. So from that is Kasaragod. So we started the program from Kasaragod district. We arranged the program for the different categories, especially for the hearing impaired people, intellectually disabled people. For them, these intellectually disabled people are unable to attend the class. So we were arranged a program for the caretakers or parents, those who are understand the things and can share with their children or persons who are having this problem. And third, the category is comes under the purview of visually challenged people. The fourth categories are hearing impaired. So, locomotor disabled or orthopedically impaired. So we conducted a 4 days program. Per day, we include more than 70 people in a program. 70 number. The government of Kerala and KSDMA, Kerala State Disaster Management Authority, have been supported this project. So we decided to limit a 4 days program. This is an initial stage taken by government of Kerala and Mahatma Gandhi University. The name of my department is Inter-University Center for Disability Studies. So when compared to connecting the first program in Kerala, especially for the differently able community, we were organized the training support of KSDMA and the technological information also supported by National Institute of Speech and Hearing, Trivandrum. They are also made videos and audios for the visually challenged as well as for the hearing impaired for understanding the major areas regarding this style of presentation, how to evacuate the people, what are the measures to be adopted during time of flood or disaster scenarios occur. Kerala is one of the major areas affected disasters almost all year. Serious disasters have been done during the last great flood affected in Kerala. So when considering the persons with disabilities and other vulnerable groups are at high risk of death, injury, and additional impairment. As a result of exclusion from disaster risk reduction policies, plans and programs, public services, early warning systems are many times in a language that are not followed the PWDs. Especially hearing impaired people are unable to understand what are the languages which we are using. Most of the impaired people are using sign languages. So in addition, emergency exist shelters, facilities tend not to be better, barrier-free regarding participation of persons with disabilities in emergency preparedness drills and other DRR program. And damage when disaster risk, disaster strikes, physical and information infrastructure, incorporate universal design principles, yes, would improve the chances of safety and survival. All these things are parameters regarding the training programs when we considered for this All Kerala program. So participation of the PWDs is a most important thing, that is disaster preparedness we used to call. And this disaster management also act also emergence urges as local state government bodies to prepare disaster mitigation plans according to the hazard profile of their respective location. But this is not being practiced in Kerala scenario. So the government of Kerala decided to conduct a special program for the differently abled community, and we undertaken the responsibility and conducted. Myself also joined this program, all the 14 districts, and I could understand many people are very interesting to understand. So they are receiving a lot of facilities, financial support, social facilities, financial and other facilities from government systems, NGOs, etc. But according to their opinion, this is the first time considering these people as especially taking from the dangerous scenario to understand what exactly is going to be happen. So the people were open to that. This program must be conducted. More than 3,000 people, differently able people could be give direct training, not a webinar or a seminar or something like that. Training is including our team, including medical professionals for imparting first aid training programs, and other personnel from fire services, fire force services for giving training to the differently able people. So many professionals have been joined with these technical services. So it was a great change to making a mind-changing scenario to the different able in Kerala. So that we this after training, 14 districts covered. As the opinion was that yes, this must be conducted properly in every district. At least minimum in Kerala, more than 4 to 5 or 6 taluk in Kerala. The total population is Kerala now 3.75 crore, 3.75 crore people in Kerala. About according to the survey conducted in 2015, a rough survey conducted, and it was found that 8 lakh people have been comes under the category of differently abled. Now it may be increased. So this is the first survey conducted by Government of Kerala for understanding the number of differently abled people. Now it may be increased because the according to 2016 Act, RPD Act, this may be increased. I think now about it is maybe increased to 10 lakh. So these 10 lakh people is a very huge people in number regarding this state, like a state Kerala, a small state, very near to seashore, and most of the areas are covered with hills and some terrains. So the disaster risk is very high in Kerala concerned. So as Dr. Shambhu and Mr. Sama and Dr. Chandra Shekhar, as they have explained their experiences in the field of a disaster risk reduction field. The Kerala government have undertaken this project as one of the best one, and they have submitted it to the UN campaign conducted in 2018, I think so. And one pavilion was also been established for the PWDs, and it was presented in emerging Kerala scenario. So this got a special support and appreciation from the Secretary General of concerned with this webinar and the international seminar. So we got a special appreciation from the UN also. And again, I myself presented this program in NADM at New Delhi in an international conference. So this also got many appreciation. And again, the government of Kerala given a special task force to study more about this inclusive disaster risk reduction. Now, government of India is being approved. Kerala government model inclusive disaster risk program must be conducted all over India. So I would like to finish because from this experience, government of Kerala again recently conducted a statewide webinar, and myself also joined to present my interest and the upcoming programs to be conducted, especially for the differently abled in almost all taluks, and especially for children in schools, in colleges, and also maintaining a force for supporting these people whenever an emergency evacuation, emergency scenario is occur in Kerala. So this was a great awareness program created among the differently abled people, especially their parents, and also media has covered this program widely, give wide publicity. So create a lot of awareness. So this was first time in Kerala. So this kind of programs must be conducted among faculties, teachers, and community people, panchayats. Recently, one great this kind of disaster occurred in Mundakayam near hill area in Idukki. So a lot of lives have been suffered, and this was happened in the daytime at 11 a.m. morning. This was happened. Otherwise, it may create a lot of deaths in that place. We visited, and our MD Mahatma Gandhi University, myself working as a professor in the university, we have prepared a program and a project especially for this particular area. And we visited with our eminent personalities, professors, this area, and myself also the convener among the community committee. So we are planning under the supervision of universities, and we are having a study center and a disaster management center courses in this area. And myself conducting a disaster management paper as a core paper in our PG courses. And universities also decided to conduct a special department for this kind of PW people, inclusive disasters for PW people. So all these things are understanding from my area. It is very important to conduct almost all states in India this kind of inclusive disaster risk management program, and state disaster SDMAs in your states must conduct awareness program, especially for the PWDs. And also government of social justice department, Ministry of Social Justice Department, Ministry of Social Justice, Divyanjan can also undertake this kind of program. So recently, government of Kerala, Department of Social Justice advised me to conduct minimum 1 month training program for this particular community people. As I told ma'am, it is very difficult to conduct within 1 month. Almost all Kerala, more than 3.75 crore people are there, among more than 10 lakh people having this kind of differently ablement. So kindly give a proper training to almost all the employees who are working in the government system, college system, school systems, like in Japan. Japan also is a model to us, because they are giving training to the even to the nursery people, kindergarten people also they are giving training. Whenever any disaster or issues are taken place, immediately they will evacuate it immediately by the school authorities or children themselves, or wherever they are having any media source, transportation, etc. So this kind of Japan model with training disaster management program also been conducted for general public or public people, especially for the differently able people. Our state government, our institute, National Institute for Peace and Hearing, also now conducting a lot of programs with the support of technologies by providing creating awareness program, direct involvement, and direct training. Also now COVID-19 is over, so we are also planning to give a direct offline programs to the different level people. So these are the things which I would like to share here, and this is because now time very short period. So in the next meeting, I would like to be present more about our programs being conducted. So anyhow, the Government of India approved and recognized the Kerala model inclusive disaster risk reduction. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Baburaj, for sharing so extensively about the different initiatives which have been done in Kerala, and I've been also part of some of these efforts. And when I've also seen actually it is happening. So for that discussion, we had those who joined recently. So just to update them that we had discussion from representative of humanitarian development professional by Ravi, setting the floor, wherein mentioned about some real-time evaluation, the stakeholders' participation, how persons with disabilities have been included in their different program, followed by Dr. Shambhu, who's the Additional Commissioner State for Disability in Bihar, some state-specific intervention, some of the planning efforts which they are doing for the upcoming situation, and by Ms. Sana from CSR Spark Media Foundation. So what good practices they are following in sensitization and awareness, the key thing which they have highlighted, which need further push by us together, by most of the institutions organization, and again yet to reach a large population one need. An example from the grassroots, very eminently shared by Dr. Chandra Shekhar. They also share the challenges and the contribution by different individual or collaborative organization. They also highlight some of the initiatives efforts, even when they were not able to do it directly, they have channeled it to be done by others, so that the most vulnerable or the most who are in need can be supported. And lastly, it was concluded by Dr. Babiraj, a technician who is working in Kerala, wherein he mentioned different initiatives highlighted by Kerala with other organizations, which has been included in different plans, policies, and other documents, and the number of capacity building initiatives done by the state. So now the floor is to the audience. In case if you have any question to the panel members, we'll try to keep it short and sweet. So any question, you can raise your hand and then shoot it. Any question from the audience who's attending it here? I see a raised hand by Tuna Maharana. Tuna, do you have a question? Any other participants who would like?
Hello.
Yes, Tuna, please go ahead.
Sir. Good evening, all of you. Sir, this is Tuna Maharana from Odisha. We are working with disaster management since 2002 and with the district administration. Now our organization is working as district nodal NGO and also working with the OSDMA. We have already, this is a good opportunity to learning more things or different pictures. Right now, I have some questions, sir. We are preparing the VDMP in village level and GP level, and also we are preparing the DDMP also in district level.
Tuna, if I may interrupt, you have a question to a specific panel member, or you have question to all panel members?
No, sir. All members, sir.
Okay.
I have questions. I need some technical guidance. When we are preparing the maps, sir, we are 4 types of maps in social resource and evacuation route map, also vulnerability map. During disaster, we have not any specific identification to identify the PWDs. How, if we digitize our maps, it is helpful during disaster, sir. Is there any apps or software? Then we can digitize all these our BDMPs. Okay. Then it will be helpful all type of disasters. Yeah. To evacuate the PWDs, I need only this technical suggestions.
So, Tuna, anyone from the panel member?
Can I respond?
Sure, please go ahead.
Mr. Tuna, the thing is, it's not very clear from you. Is you are talking about the government village level disaster management plan, or it is the disaster management plan developed by your organization?
Sir. We are, sir. We are preparing the village level disaster management plan.
Yeah, of NGO. It's not NGO, by the government. It's not by the.
Okay. Also, we have submitted the government, sir.
Okay, fine. So the question specific was how to digitize. So,
sir.
During my sharing, I mentioned that the GIS technology, which is very useful now. The GIS based softwares are there, like many NGOs. I mean, some of the corporates also. They are good in GIS and remote sensing. So the using the GIS software, Eridas, CorelDRAW, these are the software which helps you digitize your mapping very well. So it can be also, I was mentioned that there are something called distress alert systems also. There are people who provide such softwares. For example, the map is the reference, but somebody is calling you from some location with the GPS and you know from the map which location the person is calling. For example,
Sure, sir.
you have a distress alert system, but expensive. But for mapping digitization, you can go with the GIS, Arados, and Coral Draw and other things. And it can be very well fit with the GIS. I mean the GPS also, global positioning.
Sure.
So you can go ahead, and it is not very expensive, and you can outsource it also.
Sure, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, any app is available with any other organization?
App, I said in CBM we have something called H-Heart, hands-on. Yeah, H-Heart. This is not a app for map or anything. It is a guidance for civil society organization and humanitarian responders how to do inclusive humanitarian response as a step-by-step guide. So if you go to the Google, the Play Store, you can put CBM hands-on humanitarian hands-on tool. So you can get it, and it talks about all these step-by-steps. How do you make shelter? How you make your inclusive evacuation? How do you do your other work is accessible? So you can read it, and a lot of pictorial diagram, flowcharts, everything is there which you can benefit. In your mobile phone, you can download that.
Thank you, Ravi. And there is another question in the chat box by Atre Ganguly. That lot has been said by the people with physical disabilities. Are there any special initiatives for people with intellectual disabilities? I think this would be in context of DIDR. Atre Ganguly, are you there? No. So any panel members who would just like to share something, some reflection on it? Especially some initiatives for people with intellectual disabilities.
We didn't see CBM has done quite a lot of emergency response across the India, including the COVID. We have done largely with over more than 14 partners. But there is no specific projects for a person with intellectual disability. But what we do, the person with the disability is a overall cross disability as a criteria. It is also not that we only work with person with disability. This approach doesn't work in humanitarian response. As we said, the mainstreaming mainstreaming the humanitarian response, we need to work with the entire community. See, for example, a community is affected in a cyclone or flood. You cannot take only your response and relief to the person with disability. It is not a good approach. But what we really focus, it's an inclusive approach. You address the entire community, but ensure that inclusion is part of your humanitarian response. So we didn't do any special initiative for intellectual disability. But we have some work is going on across our health and rehabilitation program. In Bangalore, we have developed an app, that app for telehealth and rehabilitation. So there are trained rehab professionals are there. They are capable of doing the cross and multiple disability rehabilitation and the health needs. So if needed, I can arrange a kind of little exposures. How do they work with children, especially with the intellectual disability, and how do they respond in last 2 years during the COVID, when the children who has no access to healthcare services due to a lot of restrictions, fear of COVID and infections, visiting the hospitals and medical college, how this support help them, which we can do.
Thank you, Ravi, again. Hope it answers your query.
Yeah, I think this is something very good that Dr. Ravi has shared. And post this webinar, I would like to be in touch with you, and we can, I can learn more from you. I'm really interested in it. Thank you.
Sure.
Another thing which would be very challenging in coming days, wherein as per the new act, where the number of disability is up to 21, so it will be very challenging from all the stakeholders side. How to capture the needs, especially in emergencies. So it will not be kind of an easy task. And as most of the organizations who are doing efforts, then again target the most vulnerable, the most needed, who's there in that situation. So any last question to the panel members, and then I'll try to. Someone requested for a training on earthquake resistance. Yes, but we can take it in another session. Any other question?
There was one kind of, not a question, it's a comment.
Yeah.
From Mr. Tangaswamy. Would you like to respond to that? It's very general, mostly about the government, FCRA, other issues. Yes, sir.
Again.
Tangaswamy Arul Mon.
Yeah, one of the kind of a comment, yes, Ravi, yeah, has been shared by Mr. Tangaswamy, that these days the kind of the efforts, the government transferred assets to few corporate, not many welfare activities. So how, and it is getting challenging day by day, especially for the organization who are working this sector. So how organizations are going to thrive, especially in the coming days, and keeping again inclusion in mind. So anyone from the panel members would like to take it, or
Dr. Sana, would you like to say, because you are from the CSR perspective, but also I would like to just quickly reflect, and I completely acknowledge the comments which is made by the participants. It is not easy and it's very hard, but at the same time, it is not something totally, there is no resource. For example, you see last 2 years, the highest CSR fund was transferred to COVID relief fund. And majority of the NGOs who got it local funding, and they were doing. In fact, we have our partner, Dr. Chandra Shekhar is here, and they were also working in Kakinada, another area. So what I'm suggesting that it may be very general and vague. So Mr. Tangaswamy, to look at how do you really, as Dr. Sana was saying, that many corporates really getting sensitized on inclusion in their workplace, and also they are funding for inclusive humanitarian response, which is you can try bilaterally with them. There are some networks also there for CSR, so probably you can try. But we completely agree, and there's challenges are there. Not many agencies are really working on it, humanitarian. Inclusive humanitarian. Therefore, there is a need for mainstreaming humanitarian with the larger NGOs and other CBOs, government and other private agencies. So we are working, and I cannot really promise, but we'll see, because CBM has initiated with building the capacity of local partner. We have just done about this year 10 partners. We are helping them to give the kind of understanding on inclusive humanitarian response. We are also supporting them to really take up the funding and other opportunity, but it is very challenging. Completely agree. Maybe Dr. Sana can talk.
So I agree with what you've said, but there are, with the new amendments that have come in, there are still I'm sorry. So there are still avenues and there are still ways through which funds can still be allocated. Of course, the process has been elongated. There have been a lot of additions in the earlier processes that we had, but I think if you would really want to, then there are other avenues through which you can serve the underserved communities and you can reach where it is actually needed. So we will get in touch with you, and if there is anything that we can help you with, so we would like to do that.
And thank you Sana. And what we have noticed in last, especially 3-4 years, when things have been getting more tightened, more restricted. And again, let's see, I mean, how we are going to thrive. So it is not that we'll slow down our pace. So it will push us more to do better, to again to support those who are in need. And with this, I try to hand it over to Varsha. Varsha, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would like to thank, on behalf of Spare India, I would like to thank all the panelists and the participants who joined us today for this significant meeting we had today. And it was a really insightful session, though there were certain technical glitches because of which we moved beyond our time period and we had limited time for having a deliberations or on these subjects. But if that would be, if everyone would want to incorporate with that, we can have another session, a different session on the same subject if everyone would want to pitch in. But for today, we would really like to close the session, and we really appreciate for everyone to attend and give their time to this. Thank you so much. And also to Mr. Ayan for moderating the session. Thank you so much.
And thank you to all panelists, remember, for their valuable inputs, and to the audience there with us. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.